On today's episode of Locked On Angels, we're talking about how Arte didn't Snell the team. We're sharing Matt Moore's very unique perspective on the Angels roster in 2024, and we're reacting to the announcement that Patrick Sandoval is the opening day starter. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you want to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, aka the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Mike, we're here talking Angels baseball 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, every single weekday. So we hope you join us each day and become an everydayer with us. On today's show, Mike, Blake Snell didn't sign with the Angels. Some fans are frustrated, some are thankful. What camp do you fall in? We'll talk about that one. And Matt Moore holds a very different perspective about this Angels roster than most. And we'll share that perspective, the Matt Moore perspective. I feel like we need a segment like that.
Yes.
First of all, let's talk about Patrick Sandoval being the opening day starter for 2024. Let's get into it.
Yeah, Johnny, when the news came out, Sandy said it's a huge honor. It's something you dream of as a young kid to be the opening day starter, and I get to do it for my hometown team, which is pretty cool. The reason he was selected to be the opening day starter, according to manager Ron Washington, was that Wash felt he's been the guy that the rest of the staff has looked toward to lead them the last few years, and he came into camp wanting to be that guy. His progression each time he took the ball proved that he wanted to be that guy, and he earned it. So we gave it to him. I'm going to need you to react to that, Johnny. Sandy sees this opportunity as a moment to embrace his role as a leader for the club. Sandy is now one of the longest tenured players with this organization. And on this opportunity, opening day opportunity, he said being an opening day starter comes with a lot of responsibility, and I'm ready for it. I'm ready to lead these guys to where we need to be. We've got a young staff and a lot of young guys, and so I think it's going to be fun. So, John, just a couple of initial questions for you.
Yes.
First of all, do you think that the Angels were in on Blake Snell, and then when they didn't get him, they went, hey, Sandy, why don't you just take the opening day start? And then second question, he earned it? Did he? I'd love your thoughts on that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Wash saying his progression each time he took the ball proved that he wanted to be that guy, and he earned it. So he gave it to him. Interesting. Because
listen, what I've learned is that when people say interesting, it means I don't think I agree with that. I think that's ridiculous.
Okay. Well, considering he had a great start at the beginning of spring training.
Right. Yes.
Then he had 2 just clunkers. Then, he looked decent the other day. That was fine. Mike, I've heard that talk about Sandy wanting to be a guy people look to in the dugout. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
And I think obviously Ron Washington has a perspective that you and I don't by being in the clubhouse. So perhaps that rings true. I tend to believe Ron Washington when it comes to this stuff. But the first thing I thought of when I heard that is back when I was a teacher and I had a difficult kid in class, excuse me, I would make that kid part of what I was doing in the sense that, okay, if this kid is going to be a pain in my tuchus,
yes,
then I'm going to joke with him. I'm going to make him, I'm going to call on him. We're going to have fun. And he's going to set the tone for me because he's obviously needing attention. And so I'm going to give him that attention while still providing that for the rest of class. And hopefully that will temper his nonsense in class, right? A difficult kid in the sense that, he was always screwing around and whatnot.
Sure.
And it worked. It would work. I would get those kids to be participatory in the class because I made them take an important role in the class. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you have somebody like Sandoval wanting to step up and take an important opportunity, then Ron Washington, being the teacher in the classroom, so to speak,
Sure.
is making him part of that situation. Whether the results are there is a whole different story. These kids still, they started at F's and I got them up to C's, right? And so then maybe that's kind of what's going on here as well. So in terms of earning it, I think Ron Washington is trying to, I don't think appease is the right word.
Okay.
But to help Sandy be the guy that Ron Washington thinks he can be, the guy that Sandoval wants to be. Look, I know that we all got really excited for Sandy in the WBC.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe the pressure is something that Sandy needs. Maybe Sandy needs that environment. I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of guessing here, but at the same time, WB Sandy was very, very good.
Yeah.
There was a lot on the line for Team
Yeah.
and for Sandoval. And so he looked great out there. And in fact, you got a quote here from Sandy in the WBC. Why don't you share that with us?
Yeah, he said it's definitely a different atmosphere that I was used to playing in. Obviously, right?
A winning, fun atmosphere where
you're playing
matters.
For something.
Yeah.
He said it was cool to be able to experience it. I kind of thrive in it. And just knowing that I have that in me.
Okay, I didn't know you were going to say that, so that's kind of where I was going with that.
Right, yeah. He said, hopefully I can get us back to October and get that same feeling back. That's an interesting quote too, right? Like, I think to your point of the teacher and the troubled student, that seems to be maybe some of the dynamic here. And that if you put him in an environment where he can't throw a fit anymore, you put him in an environment where he can't get upset anymore, where he has to be the leader, maybe that shifts him out of this junior high mentality and he becomes a high school kid, right? Like maybe it helps him to grow up a little bit. And the reaction that I've seen from a lot of people has been but the reason why we're not fully against it is because I think we all see in Sandy that potential. And if Wash can unbox that, if he can open up the lid and remove that, great. And maybe this is that first step, right?
Let's be real though. If it was Canning, if it was Detmers, if it was Silseth or Tyler Anderson, we'd all have the same reaction. Yeah. I mean, there's no ace on this staff, Mike.
Right.
And we've talked about potential. We've talked about how great these guys could be and show us stuff that's like, hey, you know what? He's got a bright future. We've talked about that, but so far it's not there yet.
Yeah.
And so I think we would have had this opinion about anybody getting the opening day nod. Am I wrong?
I don't know if I would personally, I don't know if I would have reacted that way if it was Canning or if it was Detmers. I think I would have been like, well, that makes sense. I don't think I would have been so like, really? And that was my reaction today. Locked On Every Day or Cope. I see him almost every day now. And so he holds up a photo and goes, look at this. And it was the announcement of Sandy. And I went, what? Really? And it was just kind of surprising, right? Not shocking, but surprising. I actually thought it would be Reed Detmers. I thought that they would give Reed Detmers that shot. But what I'm reading between the lines with what Ron Washington is saying is a couple of things. Like he's pushing Sandy into this opportunity because he thinks that it'll push Sandy to be who he has the potential to be. I also think that it's kind of a tip of the cap because he's been around the longest, and so he's going to get this opportunity. The one thing that I didn't know, John, that Mark Gubaza tweeted out, which I thought was really helpful, is Sandoval is 3-1 with a 1.99 ERA in March and April for his career. So he's a good starter when the season starts, and so maybe that's potentially part of the reason why he's put in this position in 2024. And John, they're playing the Orioles, and that's a really good team, but Sandy has also been pretty effective against the Orioles. Now, not this version of the Orioles. In previous seasons, he's been effective. 3.86 ERA in 3 starts, including a 1 run over 6 1/3 innings in his career. And that was in Baltimore in 2022 when he pitched against them. So that's 2 years ago. And again, it's not this version of the Orioles. So he's got his work cut out for him. And Wash says that he believes in him. And so if Ron believes, then I'm going to believe, right?
I don't blame you. I mean, I subscribe to what Wash is bringing to the table. I feel like I have since day one. I think it's also important for us to remember that you have to win the series.
Yeah.
Opening day is great. It's important. It's fun. It's, Thursday, and then they have the off day, and then Saturday, Sunday. You got to win the series. You got to win the series,
2 out
right?
of 3. Yep.
At the end of the day, it's one game, and it sets the starting rotation on its rhythm and whatnot. So, yes, it's an important nod. It's a great nod. I think it's an honorable nod. You want to go out there and win game 1, but at the end of the day, I think these guys got to win 2 out of 3.
Yeah, and I think that the reason why there might be some questions around this, I know for me personally, the reason why I would ask these questions is when you think of the opening day starter, you think of the guy that's going to start a series for you, or he's going to end a losing streak for you, those types of things, right? And Sandoval just hasn't been that guy. And so maybe Wash looked at his starting rotation and said, out of all of them, out of all these number 4s, I think he's the best number 4, right?
Yeah.
And so that's just the thing. I think that as we look at the season, Sandoval just doesn't give me the confidence to be able to say, like, hey, we lost 3 or 4 in a row. Now Sandy's on the mound against their ace. Oh, we have a really good shot. And that, I think, is why a lot of us have been clamoring for some sort of ace for this team, because we don't have that stopper and that guy that can help the team to recover from maybe losing 2 out of 3 or getting swept in a weekend series.
Yeah, and keep in mind, they're going up against Corbin Burns as well in this one. So that's going to be a challenge. But I know the Angels, they did pretty well against him, I believe, last year, at least better than you might expect when they took on the Brewers. So that's something to take into consideration.
I am going to be honest. When I saw that he was going to be the opening day starter, I thought, all right, 4 1/3, 7 runs,
96 pitches,
2 of them are earned because there were 2 errors made behind him. Right?
7 runs, 2 earned. Yeah, that's the classic Sandoval line.
96 pitches and 4 1/3.
Mike, I know why he got the nod. I know why.
Why?
He's the best looking guy in the rotation.
Okay.
Patrick Sandoval. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen every single day. Coming up, Blake Snell is a Giant and not an Angel. So who's to blame? Or should we not blame anyone? We'll get into all of that coming right up in just a minute.
Locked On Angels is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy platform in North America, and they're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And it's basketball month. The tournament is here. NBA teams are working to get to the playoffs, so it's the perfect time to turn your hoops knowledge into cash in your pocket or in your bank account. There's a new fun feature on this app called the Demons and Goblins feature. Demon picks are marked in red, and they're the scary picks that make your heart beat a little bit faster because you have a chance to win some big money, including 100 times your money. So if you bet $10, you could win $1,000. But if you're more cautious like me, then you can choose a goblin bet, which is marked in green because it's designed to keep you in the green and allow you to land consistent victories. Either way, the payout is fantastic, and you can use Apple Pay and all of those great apps to get your money quickly. So download the app today, the Prize Pick app today. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB, all one word, all lowercase, and you can get that first deposit match of up to $100. Join Prize Picks today. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Everydayers, don't forget, today on Locked On Sports Today, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 Pacific, the best MLB season preview is exclusively on Locked On Sports Today. Be the first to get local insight from the local experts of baseball of the Locked On Podcast Network. Again, today, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app.
Johnny, Blake Snell is a Giant, not an Angel.
And not an Astro.
Not an Astro.
Not a Dodger. That's, you know what? Have fun in the Bay Area, my friend.
That is good news, right? I know I have some friends. One of our everydayers, his name is Lee, is a Giants fan, and he is super excited about Logan Webb and Blake Snell and Matt Chapman and Jorge Soler and all that team. Giants sneaky good this offseason. So Snell signs that deal with the Giants, 2-year deal, can opt out after the first year. And there's a lot of conversation about this, right? So the first conversation that I think we need to have is, what camp do you find yourself in conversation?
Yeah.
And I'd love your thoughts. There's the Arte continues to sit on his hands and do nothing conversation. And then there's the Arte showed restraint and not rage spending, which is something brand new and something good that we haven't seen from Arte. Johnny, is there a camp that's right and a camp that's wrong? Or are you of the opinion that perhaps both camps are right? Tell me your thoughts.
I think it's more nuanced than either or, because on one hand, it's entirely frustrating that Arte Moreno did not sign Blake Snell. And I have a great comment here. Garrick's Apprentice is a Locked On Everydayer who commented on YouTube. He said, signing Snell to that overpaid rental deal. Now, remember, it was $62 million, 2 years with an opt-out after year one. He said it would have been a total Arte move no matter what, and for little gain. And yet folks are upset beyond belief that he didn't take the bait on a player fans were very vocal about and not wanting until this past weekend, which I agree, because you and I have had the conversation too of, well, I'd rather see Montgomery. I'd rather see this guy or that guy. I think to Garrick's Apprentice point, the frustrating thing here is that there was every opportunity to sign anyone, Mike, to improve this rotation. And the fact that it came down to Snell and Montgomery, a Cy Young winner who wants to be here, and Arte went, nah, I don't think so. Look, I know the Angels were negotiating with Snell. I know at one point it sounded like somewhere between 3 and 5 years with an opt-out along the way. I think Snell wanted the opt-out after year one. The Angels felt more comfortable after year two, which I totally get, because you want this guy to be around for a while. But you and I have said, if you roll the dice in the short term and build for the long term, look, be good this year. Yeah. Be good, and you'll get to keep Blake Snell. That's the one side that I think I agree with when it comes to sitting on his hands and doing nothing. And look, this is not a pattern for Arte Moreno anymore. This is like a mindset. He's not going to pay for starting pitching. He hasn't done a big contract since CJ Wilson. I know Tyler Anderson got the 3-year deal, but it was a cheap deal. It wasn't that expensive comparatively. The other side of the coin, Arte showing restraint and not rage spending, which is new and good. Yes, I think that they avoided a situation where this would not have gone well for them. However, you didn't do anything to improve the rotation. You didn't add anybody. And gosh, there was a video that you and I did a while back about, hey, if the Angels were not planning on being in on some of the big free agent starters, then they would have already signed guys like Michael Wacha and stuff like that. And now I look like an idiot because they didn't do anything, Mike. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like, okay, then why didn't you go get your Wachas or your Flaherty's? You know what I'm saying? So to me, I think there's a lot of arms out there that are lateral moves. I think Snell and Montgomery would have been a step in the right direction. I understand that the contract stuff is probably what held them up. And again, Blake Snell wanting an opt-out because Scott Boras royally screwed up this offseason with all of his free agents and didn't get any of them a significant payday or a long-term deal, because I think he totally read the market wrong. So I think that's another aspect of this. So again, I think it just comes down to this. We're frustrated because Arte didn't get Snell, because at this point, it's kind of only just Blake Snell that they could get. And he was the only one who wanted to be here. And there's kind of a sniff and a smell of desperation from Angel fans of who wants to be here, who wants to come to the Angels. The Cy Young winner wants to play for the Angels, and Arte said no. I think that's where people are coming from.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree. I wonder if somebody will ever get to press Arte on the unfinished business comment that he made, right? Like what does that even mean? And I know that there was a tweet of an article from Sam Blum, and we're friends with Sam. We love Sam. God bless Sam. But Sam really fed into that angry camp when he tweeted out like, well, I haven't signed anybody, and here we are, right? And so
that's true.
But that's the thing, is he's not wrong. He's not wrong. And the question then is like, well, how is this team going to improve? And we're really relying on a lot of unproven guys. We just talked about Sandoval. We're really relying on a lot of unproven guys. And I am ready to be blown away, right? I'm ready.
George,
I'm ready to be blown away.
You got the Seinfeld reference today. I like
Yeah.
it.
However, I don't think I'm going to be blown away, John. I don't think that at all. And I want Ohapi and Neto, and I loved his home run yesterday. I think he's going to have a great year. Brett McGuire tweeted something out about how he's watch out for him. And I was Brett.
Neto,
right?
Neto stealing bags and going first to third and hitting home runs, going 3 for 3 yesterday. That dude, he's going to have a great year.
Absolutely. So I'm excited about those guys. However, we're just really relying upon young, unproven guys. And so, John, I guess my question back to you is, there's this clamoring of rebuild the team. And then there's this clamoring of, well, come on, we got to sign somebody. Come on, we got to sign somebody. And I guess where I would say that the tension lies for me as I watch and listen to fans is we got to choose one or the other. And it seems like we're choosing the other, which is the rebuild the team direction, because we're not going to lose a draft pick. We have 4 in the top 100, and we're really relying upon our young guys. Right. We filled the holes in the bullpen. And so it sounds like we're moving in that direction. So that's why I'm not as frustrated or as irritated. It was like, yeah, that makes sense. Even though it would be nice to have him or Montgomery, it makes sense because it doesn't seem like we're trying to do anything significant. However, that unfinished business line, and I want to win, and we're going to do everything we can to win. Like, just talk to me like I'm talk to me like Ron Washington talks to me. That's what I want from Arte and from Perry. I don't need you to blow smoke at me anymore.
Yeah, well, and that's what it is, Mike. It's they got to toe that company line of, oh yeah, we want to be competitive, we want to win, we want to do this, we want to do that. Then why is your top player on the team begging you and pestering you to sign somebody
and talking about it in the media?
Yeah,
and he never does that. Now he's doing that.
Because you know why, Mike? You know why he's doing that? He's covering his own butt for when the time comes that he asks for a trade. And he's laying the breadcrumbs right now. I fully believe that about Mike Trout. I think Mike Trout intimated it barely when he was like, we'll see what happens this season. And it was like, oh boy, that's the closest he's ever said to considering a trade. And to be fair, right before that, he said, no, I've never really thought about that. And so then he's laying the breadcrumbs, Mike. And that's honestly what's going to happen. And, whether you want Trout to be traded or not is a different story. I personally don't want to see him traded. But it's really pathetic that you can just look at somebody who was loyal to you, has never badmouthed you once, has all the reason to ask for a trade, has all the reason to badmouth you, and just be like, nah, we're not going to do that. No, sorry, we can't do that. And it doesn't even have to be Snell. It doesn't have to be any of those. Like, you had all season to figure this out. What's that line from? I think you had all summer to figure it out. Figure out what you do.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, that's the most frustrating part. I think it's understandable that people want a rebuild, but then they also want free agents. You got to pick a lane.
Yep.
At the same time, it is never a good thing to upset the star player on your team who has done nothing but good things for you, and you can't even return the favor other than, well, I paid you all this money, right? I did this. Like, Trout could have gotten twice as much anywhere else if he had gone to free agency. So he did the Angels a favor, in my opinion.
Well, if you want to go to Angel games, then you should use the Game Time app. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the seats before you buy them, know exactly where you're going to sit when you're planning on going, and you can see where you're going to sit and see what the view is. It's really great. They have all-in pricing right up front. No secret fees, no hidden fees. And you can buy the tickets in 2 taps and you're ready to go. And Game Time is obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. They have Game Time deals right up until the start of the event, even an hour after the event starts. They have exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on all sorts of sporting events, plus concerts, comedy, theater, and so much more. They have zone deals where you can pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for an average savings of 18%. And the Game Time guarantee means that you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and in the same row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out. Use Game Time. You should download it right now. create an account, use our promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, use our promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app right now. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
I was trying to find a comment on YouTube from the other day because you said that during the Game Time ad about, if you want to go to an Angels game, somebody was like, I see what's going on to the Angels in spring training, and I don't want to pay $50 to be irritated for 3 to 5 hours.
Yes.
And I was like, that's the perfect way to sum it up sometimes.
Yeah. You won't have to because you get $20 off with Game Time.
There you go. So $30 to be irritated for 2 hours. Yeah, that's not a big deal. Oh, brother. All right, Mike. Matt Moore.
Yes.
Talked about the Halos with all the talk about the roster, the rumors, and how the Angels are viewed, and even all the discussions about what a disaster that trade deadline was. An actual MLB player with a great track record and a great personality and a great attitude, Matt Moore, shared something early this spring that was the exact opposite of that narrative. He gave Perry Minasian praise about how he went about the building of the roster and the trade deadline. He said he appreciated Perry addressing the bullpen issues this year, including bringing him back. He shared that the players are looking at GMs to see how they address teams' needs, and Perry did. So as you're a free agent out there, that's something to keep in mind is players are looking at GMs and going, all right, what are they doing on that team? Because is that something I want to be part of or not? And for Matt Moore, it was something he wanted to be part of. He said he wanted to be part of a team that prioritizes needs over splashy moves, and other players feel the same way. Well, disregard everything I just said last second. No, I'm just kidding. But to that point, I mean, yes, they did address the bullpen, but they certainly had other needs on this team. But
yes,
we move on. He even went on to say that the players were grateful for how the Angels attempted to make a run at the trade deadline last year and go for it. Moore said it gave the clubhouse a good vibe. Mike, this is kind of goes against the narrative of what's out there in terms of players wanting to come here. The Angels are terribly run in terms of, their signings and stuff. So what do you believe? How should we feel about what Matt Moore is saying here? What does this say about the Angels if Matt Moore has these words about them?
It sounds like Matt Moore is a confident baseball player. And it sounds like he is representing other confident baseball players that are playing for the Angels. And if you're going to be a ball player, you got to be confident, right? You got to be somebody that believes in what you can do. Sandy's like, I'm going to get the opening day start and I'm going to knock it out of the park. I'm going to rock the house, right? I'm going to do great that day. You have to be that. You have to be somebody that speaks to your confidence and speaks to your potential that leads to performance. Aaron Donald was a Los Angeles Ram for his entire career, just retired. And everybody took a deep breath and sigh of relief that he retired, right? But there was a video of him on the field. He was mic'd up talking to himself and he was hyping himself up. And he always said, like, if you're not going to be your own hype man, nobody else is going to hype you up. And that is what I think we're getting from Matt Moore. He saw what Perry Minasian did last year at the trade deadline. And in a perfect world, gosh, that would have been a great move to get Giolito and Lopez and to get a couple of bats. And
they addressed all the needs. They needed a bullpen arm. They needed a starter. They needed a couple bats to replace Taylor Ward and Rendon and stuff like that. They addressed the needs. They went and
did that. And Matt Moore recognizes that. And then even this offseason, seeing that they needed help in the bullpen, him being a part of that.
Yeah.
So I think that what we're getting, the vibe we're getting from Moore is just a confident ball player. There is another aspect to this conversation that I thought was interesting on Twitter yesterday. Swilly Sports tweeted out a response to something that she had been talking about from somebody who is a baseball fan. And they said, here's how I see it as a non-Angel fan. The Angels are just so darn unlucky. The Angels went for it last year and got a bunch of really good players who just did not play like a bunch of really good players. And then in years past, with the Hamilton signing and with the Pujols signing, and they just didn't perform to the level that they were able to perform to. And so I think that a lot of us are dealing with this great disappointment of what we had on this team and the expectations we had, and then we're just let down. It is kind of nice to get a perspective of Matt Moore, who is like, hey, we're a bunch of confident dudes that are really confident in our manager and our GM, and we're going to go out there and try to prove ourselves every day, every night on the field.
One of our big questions about bringing back Matt Moore, because I really wanted him back, that was something I pitched in my GM episode, was, does he want to come back because of the way things ended, where he went on waivers and stuff? And then, after he got signed, he was like, no, I get it. It's business.
Right.
Like it's just business. And so to me, like, I respect Matt Moore and his opinion of what he was saying here about the team and what this team looks like for this season. And I respect him because he's got a great attitude about the fact that, I understand why they had to put me on waivers. Like, there was no point in keeping me around. And so he goes, I got to play for a couple other teams, try to help them get to the playoffs, and even did, in some respects, help Miami get there, even though he couldn't be on the roster. So to me, he just seems like the ultimate pro, and you can see that in his game too. He just goes out there and he's just such a pro, and I really appreciate that about Matt Moore. So I will say, I don't think he's wrong in the sense that they addressed some really crucial needs in terms of the bullpen. And, if he's got a better feeling about this team than Nerd Mike and Nerd John, then that's fine with me. I just, there's so much more that this Halo team could have done. And that's not a shot at Perry either. Like, the buck stops with Arte Moreno.
Yeah.
And it's, if that's not clear, it's never been more clear than the last year or two, especially since he's come back and decided not to sell the team. Everything begins and ends with him. And that's really why they're in the situation that they're in.
Hey, thanks for making the Nerds of Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Hey, Everydayers Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So find Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and now available on the free Fire TV channel app.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening to today's show, come on over to YouTube, get in the comments section. It's the best way to get in touch with us and be part of the conversation. Mike, what do we have on deck for Thursday's show?
We talked about Taylor Ward and what his first at bat was like. He actually talked about that, but he also shared how he believes pitchers will pitch against him this year. And Taylor Ward said, bring it on. He's ready for it. And we're going to talk about what he said tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
They're going to throw at my head and I'm going to wear a football helmet. Bring it on. That's what he said, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Hey, we're looking forward to that conversation. We hope you'll come back and join us again. Get in the comments section because we'd love to hear from you. Until tomorrow's show, my name is John and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us and we'll see you back here on Thursday.
If people say that we passed the hopium in this episode, then they weren't listening because we did not. I'm depressed.